Greetings, Wargamers. We're your hosts, Trevor,
Jay,
Josh,
and this is
Chain Attack.
Chain Attack is sponsored by Discount Games Incorporated. Discount Games Incorporated specializes in customer service, low prices, and prompt shipping. You can find our web store at www.discountgamesinc.com.
Welcome to Chain Attack. I'm your host, Trevor, and I'm going to be playing all the way through. I forgot what the game was already. What did I say I was playing through? That's right, XCOM 1. XCOM 1 and XCOM 2. I'm doubling down on my break, my Christmas break.
Well,
All the way through.
Gosh, I have mixed feelings because, I feel like I should keep trying to hold you accountable for the Disco Elysium thing, but both the XCOMs is a pretty strong argument.
and you could dive into. You said before.
I think I have enough time I could do all three. The problem is I don't actually know how long XCOM 2 is. So Disco Elysium is short enough that I could probably do it over the first day and a half, and then I could move on. So it is possible to do all three. But I said I was doing XCOM first. Are you making me shuffle, Josh?
No, I won't make you shuffle.
All right.
My only question on it was if I could convince you to do Warhammer Total War instead.
Instead of XCOM?
Yeah.
I mean, my wife's going to be off, so we could play some. I could play a
Two-player.
Two-player with her. Yeah, I've been telling her we need to play it for a while. So.
I'm Jay, and I've been playing Warhammer Total War because it's fun, I guess.
Because you're prepping for number 3, right? Is that why? Or no, is this 3 that you are playing?
No, 3 comes out in February. I mean, honestly, the main reason why is there's a very small. So with the passing of our cat recently, basically anything I do, I'm just like super listless, and I'll do something for a while, and I'm just like, this is blah, whatever. Just kind of, I guess, a classic symptom of depression. But it's one of the games that I end up being able to play for a little bit longer than most of the others for whatever reason. So
it's like Gloomhaven right now.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, without as much of the listlessness. I'm not as listless as you, Jay. Sorry. I wasn't trying to compare myself there. I'm Josh, and I need Trevor. I don't have the same break as Trevor, but I'm gonna say 2 games here, Trevor, and I want you to tell me which one you want me to pretend like I'm gonna play and not get around to for my Christmas break.
Okay. This sounds amazing.
Stellaris, Wasteland 3. No, I'm gonna say a third one, or Europa Universalis 4.
Oh, jeez. Have you played Stellaris
What was
before?
the middle one?
The middle one was Wasteland 3, which Trevor just finished playing like a month or so ago, if you recall.
Okay.
I didn't finish it.
Never played Stellaris. Like, I briefly watched you cast it on the Discord.
Discord.
And I just remember you saying like, well, you should actually watch these YouTube videos to like prep for it and stuff, right?
Yeah, I remember like someone was like, here, what you need to do in order to play this game is watch this 20-hour YouTube series.
Yeah, you need a
At which point I was like, well, I'm out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I might be willing to do that.
I mean, for your own sanity, I think you should play Wasteland 3. I think you'll enjoy it more.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you played Stellaris like all the way through an end game, right? I'm not remembering that wrong.
I have, yes. But the end game was disappointing. So I don't know if the victory conditions change depending on the race you pick, but the general victory conditions are you set up, and then there's a big event, and you have to survive the event. Well, that's the part I didn't understand. I thought you just had to be in the lead at the end of after the event happened. I thought that there was a cutoff date. There is no cutoff date. There is no end. The big event that happens at the end, and it's random what the big event is.
Okay.
But whatever that big event is, you have to beat it. So it would be the equivalent of playing Civilization. You have to get to spaceflight in Civilization, and then find out that there's an alien invasion, and you have to repel it. You have to be the leader of spaceflight,
Right.
and then you're basically your spaceflight causes an alien invasion, and then you have to defend the alien invasion. So, but everything up to that point is, you do all the same things. It's still 4X. You explore, you accomplish your goals, et cetera, et cetera.
You're saying everything up to that point was fun then?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought I was winning. I thought I thought I'd won the equivalent of the space race in Civ, but my race was not built to deal with the problem that happened at the end. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of a spoiler, because in my particular game, it was an alien invasion. An unknown alien race invaded the galaxy.
Okay.
It's a big galaxy.
Yeah.
And the problem is that they invaded from the complete opposite side of the board than what I was on. I believe that's random as well.
Okay.
So by the time they had gotten to me, where I was on the opposite side of the board, they had defeated like 3 or 4 of the other races in the game, and basically assumed all of their resources. So they were 2 or 3 times bigger than me by the time I finally ran into them. And I was a more I guess I was playing this. I mean, quite literally playing the space race style game of Civ. I was not prepared to beat a aggressive alien race that could, kick my arse with with both its income and its abilities.
Yeah.
And so this game is a waste for me. I'm like, I technically did not play to the end because it lost.
Right. So I just went to Stellaris on the Steam store, and it has the base game and then a ton of DLC and then the Ultimate Bundle. And the base game is
probably ridiculous. It's probably got to be expensive.
Yeah. So the base game is $40. The Ultimate Bundle is $202.
Yeah, I can't think of too many games that have more DLC than Stellaris does.
Well, Warhammer Total War does, but yeah.
I think I agree that it has more DLC modules, but the amount of content that's in the Stellaris DLC is just ridiculous.
I thought Jay was kidding, but I just went to our Discord chat.
Oh no,
Stellaris, and there is literally a 31 episode Let's Play Stellaris newbie tutorial. I am so excited for this, and they are on average an hour long each. That is incredible. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to follow your advice, Trevor, and I'm going to play Wasteland 3, but I'm going to probably start dabbling in the newbie YouTube channel. I'm subscribing right now.
My issue with those videos, and I have watched probably 3 or 4 hours of them, is that they lack the tutorial part of it in a really meaningful way. And what I mean by that is that they fail to really teach you in a timely manner. He's playing the game, and as he plays the game, he rambles on. And that's why it's 30 hours long, is because he's playing a normal game of Stellaris.
He's playing a campaign, basically, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's just a normal game of Stellaris, 31 hours.
Yeah. Sure.
And so he's playing a normal game of Stellaris for 31 hours straight, and he's kind of telling you all the things that he's doing and why he's doing them. The problem is that just some of the information that he runs into, maybe he doesn't tell you quick enough, or I don't know. I did enjoy the first couple of videos, but I had a friend who logged into the game with me or watched me play and just said, these are the things you need to be doing. I learned a lot more from that.
More than you're saying.
Yeah, than I did from the tutorials. But I mean, there is a lot of information going on, and man, it is somewhat hard to digest. I don't know how to say it any other way. That game is super hard to digest.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the same studio as the one that made Crusader Kings 3. Is that correct?
Yes, it's Crusader Kings. I mean, there are some similarities between it and several of its games.
Also,
Stellaris, Crusader Kings. Sorry, what was that one?
Europa Universalis 4. One of the other
Correct.
that I asked you if I should do.
Yeah, the other
Yeah.
one is I believe it's Hearts of Iron, which is the World War II equivalent of all these, and all of them same sort of thing. You know, they're very in depth, a lot of micromanagement going on. You know, just
And I bought Crusader Kings 3 and I only played a small portion of it, and part of it was because in that game I guess I kind of had the wrong expectation for it. I thought that there was going to be like that you could at some point quote unquote win the game. And
you have to have decided what winning means to you in that for that game.
so
Right?
that's
Is it fair to say, Jay?
well,
Yes.
I guess, yeah. Like you can't. There's no, yeah. And so I guess I'm curious. And it sounds like Stellaris is not that way. Like there is an actual
No,
victory
it is.
condition? Question mark.
I'm not absolutely certain of that. I don't want to say either way because I am actually not certain that I would
Okay.
have ever gotten to it. There is a point in the game which something bad happens, but I don't necessarily believe that beating that will end the game.
Okay.
There's
Thing about this discussion because it's so ridiculous.
I believe that the idea in
Right.
Crusader Kings of no particular. Every time I go into like Reddit and these other places and start reading threads, and people have similar questions to me, they're all the answers are the same thing. If you're playing it to win, you're playing it for the wrong reasons.
Oh my god!
Make your own victory conditions. You know,
Now-
they're just like if you should be playing it because this is what you enjoy. They just go on and on about how you should enjoy the experience of getting there and not necessarily winning.
And these are
Which-
the people who also say that if
This
you
get good.
Yeah.
no, they say like if you are playing a Euro game and tie it victory points, then you should rejoice in your shared victory. And
I don't think so. I mean, these guys enjoy crushing their enemies. Don't get me wrong. They enjoy being able to do it in their own way, which is fine. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like some more. It's the same reason why I don't enjoy Bethesda games. I enjoy
Right.
Railroad. Put me on the rails and send me to the end. I like being led by the nose a little bit, and those games do not lead you by the nose at all. It's a sandbox. Go play in it, and
yeah.
sometimes I don't care for that.
Okay, well, this episode is coming out in the Christmas time frame, so if basically just throw your wallet or your gift cards that you received or whatever at your computer screen at discountgamesinc.com, and surely it will help you purchase happiness and a brief moment of joy in your soul. So we can
Lofty.
that needs that needs to be become like the logo or tagline of my company, like Discount Games Inc., delivering a brief moment of light in the darkness that is our world. All right, so a year ago we talked a little bit about what a perfect day would look like in the upcoming year, and I'm pretty sure when we did it, we were kind of deep in the throes of the pandemic and didn't really have any idea of what life was going to look like for when or et cetera, when things might improve. And so we thought we might.
To be fair, we
Go
also
ahead.
kind of thought that there was a possibility that we'd be done with the pandemic at that point. You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
don't remember the timeline, honestly. I don't remember like when we've. I mean, I know that
had that kind of hope.
vaccines. I know that vaccines ended up coming out quicker than I expected in a lot of ways.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but we kind of knew they were on the horizon at that point. I believed at that point that we had another maybe 6 to 9 months. And clearly, I just got a notification from work today about somebody who got COVID and how we should, be wearing masks in the office and staying away from everybody and reminding everyone to follow the protocols and just etc. So clearly, we're not done.
Well,
Even
I mean,
close.
it feels like it's never going to be done, right? I mean, I'm not to be. I realize
Described as an endemic now, right? That's what it becomes
Yeah.
when it stays around. Like the flu.
Yeah, I mean, not to be the
not
negative
to-
Nancy
yeah,
here, but yeah, I mean, Is there any reason to believe that it's not going to be endemic, I guess, at this point?
I have no idea. I just want to be able to like live in my basement as a normal nerd and not have to feel like I'm doing it because society says I should.
That is my favorite thing, is that it's not that Trevor doesn't want to be in the basement. He doesn't want to be in the basement because mankind requires
Basically, the
it's-
teenager who's like, I don't want you to tell me what to do with my life.
That's right. Right. Don't tell me what to do with my life.
You're not the boss of me. That's amazing.
All right,
Yes.
well, let's talk a little bit
So
about.
are we going to have accountability for the first time in Chain Attack history?
Let's do it. Yeah. So,
I mean, it's
Trevor,
very
go ahead.
loosely account-
Yeah.
Go ahead and start us off, Trevor.
So last year, my perfect day was that I was going to spend all day playing a board game, and it was going to be Western Empires because I bought the game never with the hope to actually play it because it requires a max game requires 9 people, and I just thought there's no way, especially in this particular
Environment
that it would happen. And bless his heart, Josh found a way to make it happen. He got 7 other people with the 2 of us, and we played Western Empires, taking all day to play it. And it was and probably will be for a very long time, one of my favorite memories of board gaming. Like it's going to be hard to go above that. But I will follow up with that by saying that Eastern Empires finally kickstarted this last fall, and I thought, there is no way in hell I will ever get 18 people together. But I really want to have both of them so that I can put out this ridiculous board, which is huge when you put the 2 of them together. I mean, it is.
You would need another table of my size, which is a huge table to begin with, right? Wouldn't you really need that?
I think we could fit everything on there. What we'd more need is like dinner trays to put.
Yeah.
I don't know how we would get everyone's like personal play area taken care of. But one of the things that I absolutely loved about the game is the trading. You can trade with anybody on the board, and there's like you're trying to get sets of cards, and the trading part of it is just crazy. And to try to play it with 18 people would be ridiculous. But anyway, so I backed it, and they had basically they were already in production with it. They kind of knew how many they wanted printed. They ran the Kickstarter at the same time while it was already being printed. And so at the end of the Kickstarter, we almost got immediately the backer kit to fill out our address and everything. And they're shipping soon.
Oh, nice.
Like I will have Eastern Empires, which it was just recently backed. I'll have it ahead of like 5 or 6 other games that I backed, some of them as long as 2 or 3 years ago. So so I will have Eastern Empires soon. So I'm not going to declare that as my day that I want is 18 people, because I honestly think that that's impossible. But someday we'll figure out a way to get 18 people in one room to play this game. If you've not seen the board, like go to Board Game Geek and see if you can find a picture of the Eastern Western Empires board. Like there's a picture of a guy laying out. Like I don't know how tall the guy is, but he's laying next to the board. And he's if let's say he was average height, 5'9", the board is easily as tall as he is.
Yeah, the thing to me that seems the most impossible about it is the other 9 people. Like,
yeah, I think the 9 people we got together for the first one, I'm pretty sure they'd sign up for all. I think all of them had fun.
Yeah,
right,
I agree.
Right.
Yeah,
so I think all of them would come back.
But I can only maybe 3 more I can maybe think of. Like, man, 18 is a tall order. Because what you're really looking for is 18 insane people, but like functional.
And you'd have to be, I don't know. You'd have to be breaking into other play groups, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just don't know. We would almost have to. I think the way we would get it done was we would almost have to have we would have to use like Salt Lake's play groups. We would almost have to advertise
Sure.
on
Yeah.
the SaltCon groups. Say, hey, we're doing this. We know there's people crazy enough to come up. We will find you some floors to sleep on. Come play a day-long game of Eastern Western Empires with us, and then I think you could probably have it happen.
The funny thing is, do you think that the playtime would be significantly longer? I don't feel like it would be, but I just haven't paid as much attention to it as you.
I wouldn't say significantly. I would think it would be longer because you just have to go through a lot more.
And it sounds like the trading process, etc., would.
No, trading would be the same because there's a timer.
Okay.
It is open trading. Like you wander through the room and say, I mean, this is not what you'd have, but imagine I have sheep for wood, and you just kind of yell it out and you just wander through the room looking for people.
Yeah.
And when the timer goes off, trading's done. And so that's not the part that would take more time. It is the end of round bookkeeping that takes time. Because you order the activation order is basically done according to who's in the lead, and there's generally the race is tight on the first tiebreaker, so you're always going to tiebreakers, and so there can be a lot. But in theory, a lot of the game is supposed to be played simultaneously, and so I don't think it's going to take that part of it is going to take a lot. It's just mostly the end of turn. Shuffling of all the decks is one of the things, the commodity decks, the who's in the lead, and have you completed your goal for this round? Can you advance your civilization? That's stuff. But I think that if you could figure out a way to, and I haven't read the Eastern Empire's rules, so maybe it has ways in there to speed up that process. Or maybe there's apps out there. I haven't even looked. I don't know. We played it one time, and by the time we were done, many of those things were sped up quite a bit because we just learned kind of the flow. But it's hard to get multiple plays in when you're playing a day-long game, 12 to 14 hour long game.
As I think about it, what it might take is that we go, go shopping for players and so like. It's almost like you need to find the other 9 and play Western Empires with them first, so they kind of know it, and then you bring all 18 together for the combined.
Oh, geez, that would make it even more difficult. But maybe, yeah. I truthfully, in that group, when you open the pool up that big, I wouldn't be shocked to find out that you would have 2 or 3 say, "Oh yeah, I want to play," who have already played.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that could be true, right.
Especially with a game like that has been around for a long time. I mean, this is the new version of it, but the original version is not a new game by any means.
Yeah, that's right. I forget that.
I am kind of curious, Trevor.
Uh-huh.
So would you say that Western Empires lived up to your hopes or expectations?
Yes, I would. So Western Empires it is a little bit of an old school game, but you're coming into it with the idea that it's going to be somewhat like diplomacy, and that the core mechanics of the game are light and easy to understand. It is the negotiation for goods and for how you're going to deal with your neighbors from a social aspect that made it fun. So I do believe that it was fun. The core mechanics aren't difficult. It's really a matter of, to win a fight, you just have to have a bigger stack. Knowing the way the stacks are going to work as far as the numbers is important, I guess, if you're going to be good at it. But it's fairly simple. Everyone has the exact same tech decks, and so knowing the techs is another, I think, a fairly large part of it.
Yeah, it is huge.
Yeah, and so knowing what text can do helps quite a bit. But at the end of the day, that's not really what the game is about. The game is about accomplishing your goals and sort of forcing your way in to complete those goals. It is one of those games just like TI4 in that each round there's a very specific goal that you need to accomplish. And if you fail to complete that goal, you fall behind the pack. And everybody who does complete the goal continues pushing forward. And it becomes a little bit snowbally, I think, for people who fall too far behind. Like you'll never catch up, because every round the people in the lead are generally completing their goals, moving to the next step. But the truth is people don't usually fall very far behind.
No, and there's some swings, I felt like, too.
Yeah, there's some swings. One of the things that I think people who wouldn't like the game is those swings. So there's some natural disasters. Basically, there's some cards that can come up that get traded to you, and you can try to trade them away. But sometimes people they'll bait you in, and you'll get hit with something. So the people who generally have big hands of cards for trading generally get hit with something, and those disasters can be very swingy, intentionally swingy. And that might bother some people, but I actually enjoyed it. It kept everybody into the game. It made it so that trading was actually more interesting. Like you can't just ignore trading, or you won't get
right. You'll never build up.
Yeah, you'll never build up. So you have to trade, but there's a bunch of calamities out there, and people are trying to pass them off onto you. And so you're making these verbal deals because you trade 3 cards to 3 cards. And you have to be honest about 2 of the cards you're handing to the person. You don't have to tell them anything about the 3rd card. And so that 3rd card can be something positive if they have, or it can be something just pretty benign, or it can be something horrible that's going to completely ruin your day. But the truth is you can sometimes pass that off to somebody else before the end of trading happens. There's really a lot of interesting things, social dynamics that happen during that. So yeah, I thought it was amazing, and the number of players really led into that, because everybody at some point is going to probably backstab you during the trading part. It's just you kind of sort of expect it, and you're okay with it because you've done it to everybody at the table too. And so I generally, even with people who I had like a truce with, or some sort of treaty where said, hey, we're not going to fight, we would still hand each other calamities and didn't really have a problem with that. So anyway, it was enjoyable. It's one of those games that most people will probably never get to experience.
Okay, Josh. Well, I guess give us accountability on your perfect day.
So my perfect day included being on a trip with my wife, doing some fun activities, having a duck confit for dinner, and then, ending the day with games. And I kind of pulled it off. Or if we're allowed to use our imagination.
Okay, so how did you use your imagination?
Well, we did end up going on a trip, but my wife, who really has almost crippling anxiety at the idea of leaving her children, I think we've talked about that before, I could not convince her to take the trip without them. So the greatest joy of the trip was that I basically accused my children of photobombing my vacation every day. And hopefully I've given them a really solid complex about that, but I don't think it would stop them from coming again. And so there were definitely card games played, on multiple evenings on the trip. I never did find a duck confit, but I did have some pretty tasty food. The most exotic activity we did was surfing. I'm not a good surfer, but my wife is, so that was interesting to learn.
To be fair, I don't think you would have got the board game part of the vacation without your kids there.
Oh, well, that's 100% true. Yeah, that is true.
So, I mean, while you had to make some concessions, I think it counts.
Oh, good. Well, I appreciate hearing that, I can only hope that my constituents will be so forgiving. And Jay, give us your account.
So mine, I'm pretty sure, was going on a trip to Disneyland with Brian, and we did accomplish that. I guess the caveats of it not being exactly how I imagined was. Oh, I can do an example of our most recent trip to Disneyland was for Brian's birthday, and in the past, some of the things moments that we would enjoy on the trip would be going to restaurants that we like there at Disneyland. And it kind of had two issues with that. One is that if Brian didn't eat low carb and vegetarian, then he would get sick. And so there's not too many low carb vegetarian options out in the world. And the other issue was that it was just really hard to make reservations as well, because they would say you can make your reservation 60 days in advance. And so I woke up to get a reservation for Brian's birthday day. I woke up at like 3 a.m. when the reservations open to try to get a reservation, and it turns out that they didn't have the schedule released out that far yet. And so then by the time they did release the schedule, it's like a piranha feeding frenzy when it does open up, and you don't have any idea when it's going to. And so basically we didn't get a lot of the reservations we would have liked. So that was kind of sad. The other two things that were kind of different than what I would have pictured on like my perfect day or whatever was that the fast pass system still wasn't implemented, and so that was kind of unfortunate. Brian, and we've been enough at this point that Brian's kind of like there's certain amounts of time that he's like, I'm just not willing to stand in line for these rides this long. And so there was that aspect. And then one of the final aspects that was kind of a little bit difficult to deal with as well is that it was kind of some of our first experiences with starting to be back in around larger crowds of people.
Yeah.
And so Brian is, and me to an extent as well, Brian has some anxiety issues. And so, having that experience of being around large crowds of people can cause anxiety anyways, without being worried about like, oh, this person over here isn't wearing a mask, or, is this person over here, is that cough meaning that I'm now going to come down with the plague, or, so yeah, that was how things went.
So it counts, but it was also painted a little differently.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Well, we had enough fun doing this last year that we talked about putting together a similar approach for this coming year. Correct?
Yes. There is one thing that I guess I was curious on before this, that a topic I've been thinking about that I'm curious on your guys' take on it. So, I had been looking forward to attending the Las Vegas Open, and that was going to be
Which
basically
is in, right?
In January.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
Yeah, end of January. And it was going to be most likely like my first convention, and it's kind of getting to the point where it's not looking likely that it's going to happen. And part of the reason why is because Brian's had not great health, and he's been worried that if he were to get the coronavirus or get sick or whatever, that
he's higher risk.
That he would have a hard time either mentally or emotionally making it through it, because it would just be one more thing, right? And especially if some sort of long haul symptom happened.
Oh yeah.
That would be like a catastrophe. And so there's this part of me that is like, yes, it would be great to be able to go to the Las Vegas Open, but like I can't really justify putting myself at risk of bringing something back to get Brian sick with. And so I guess I'm curious what your guys's like, if you see yourself doing things like that again, or when that's going to happen, or et cetera.
I mean, I'm going to be shaking hands and kissing babies for the next 5 months, so that probably is the equivalent of that, right?
I mean, I guess it depends on the setting.
Yeah, I don't know. So
You'll probably be going to rallies or conventions for it, I would assume, Josh.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the largest venue that I will face is, right? Right. I mean, I know there will be a lot of call them meet and greets or
Right.
coffees with the candidate, for lack of a better term.
Right.
Yeah. So, but man, I'm giving my father and brother tickets to the Spring Salt Con, which I think is in March, if I'm right. But that could easily just be one of those pretty lies we tell ourselves too, just to be clear.
Sure.
So
what were you thinking, Trevor?
I think I'm more likely to go to something like a board game convention than I would be a miniatures convention.
Yeah.
Because I would probably end up going like with people I know. I mean, let's be honest, it would be going with Josh and his father and
Right.
going with those people. So I would be playing games with them repeatedly, which means I'm not really interacting with the other attendees, and I'm not naive to think that that's not a risk. It is, but I think
it's at least mitigating it somewhat.
It's somewhat mitigated. I think that type of environment and convention it is what it is. You're going to get probably sick of something while you're there. You're going to get your Conqueror or whatever.
You're going to get your Conqueror, yeah.
Yeah. I'm probably okay with that at this point. I am probably going to I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm going to be getting my first booster here soon. And so I feel like, okay, if I get it, I'm fairly confident that I'm healthy enough, even with the things that we do talk about on this podcast. I'm healthy enough. I feel like I probably wouldn't have too many issues. So I'm willing to take some of those risks. And I also don't have, I don't have someone at home who's unvaccinated or high risk. So I guess I'm not as concerned about it. It would sort of depend on the current environment. I probably wouldn't want to do it right now, but in 4 or 5 months when we're back to another lull, I would probably not have an issue with it. I mean, we played a 9-player game it was during a lull where everyone was kind of finishing up being vaccinated and all the numbers were really dropping, and that's when we played it. But I would be comfortable again, I think, doing that sort of thing. So, but I think that would happen before I went to a miniatures convention and played tournaments against random people where I was basically touching the same things they were repeatedly, and new round every round where I'm meeting a new opponent. That is feels like I'm throwing all the risks out. I'm throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Part of the reason why I brought it up is I'll segue that into I'm gonna have 2 entries for my perfect day. One is I thought about this board game convention issue or whatever, and decided that large conventions for this foreseeable future was probably out for me. But I also thought about how I had a lot of friends who I miss, and that the main time I saw them was during conventions.
That's right.
And so one of the things that I'm planning on doing is doing more travel, where I travel to go see a friend and we do a small group gaming with them at where they're at, and it will kind of satisfy my desire to see my friends. It'll be lower risk than a big crowd of people, etc. And so that's something that I'm planning on doing this year that I think is going to be nice. The other thing that I'm looking forward to this year that I'll throw out as another perfect day. This one will again be Disney related, but my parents are having their 60th anniversary this year, and so Brian and I are taking them to Disney World for their anniversary, and they don't have the most amazing mobility because they're celebrating their 60th anniversary, which means that they're old. But I guess a couple of things that I'm excited about it. With the credit cards we have companion voucher stuff like that, and so I booked some first class tickets out there with companion vouchers, which I think is probably going to be like the first time that my parents have ever flown first class. They don't know that I did that yet, so it'll probably just be a surprise day of.
That's awesome.
And the other thing that I think is going to be fun is that we're staying at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, and in a room type where they have like a savanna in the hotel, that some of the rooms have a savanna view where if you want to, you can just go out on your balcony and watch the giraffes and the wildebeests and etc. And Brian and I have stayed there before, and it can I think it can be a very enjoyable day if like my parents aren't feeling up to doing a lot that day, just going out and watching the animals. And so those are, I guess, two things that I'm looking forward to for the upcoming year.
Am I up?
Yes, you're up, Josh.
Snaking back to me. So it's funny because part of what I have in my head for the perfect day, I think dovetails really well with Jay's traveling or smaller vetted gatherings for board gaming and such. So my perfect day, I'm stretching it into a long weekend. It's going to be May 19th through the 21st. We're going to be celebrating a double-digit win in the Idaho primary election over my opponent. And we're going to be celebrating it by being in an Airbnb somewhere deep in rural Idaho. I've looked at some sweet cabins out in Grace near the Niter Ice Caves, or maybe only as far as Lava Hot Spring. And then we begin the first ever bespoke game convention, fully themed. What is not perfected in my vision yet is what is the game, right? Is it 4X's? Is it Civilization? Is it Lovecraft? Is it, some of these other themes we've kicked around? That's what I have in my head.
I need to submit like a birthday request, Josh, that you like move it one weekend before or after.
Well, it would have to be after then, because okay. The weekend before, we are deep in crunch time. We're going to be fighting whatever lies whatever lies have been hung on the doors of sweet old ladies in Bear Lake County.
Yeah, because I selfishly would love to go, and B, already have plans to be in Bryce Canyon for my birthday that weekend.
And Bryce Canyon would be a great place to do this bespoke game.
Indeed.
Yeah, well, I have friends flying out from Ohio, hopefully, that I don't think are going to be quite as interested in the bespoke.
So what you're telling me is May 26th through the 29th is when we should make it happen.
Yes.
Well, obviously, it doesn't have to be exact. Well, really, I'm putting it on those days just as a highlight of, if you're one of my constituents, get out and vote on May 17th for me. And
the celebratory capstone.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Yes. Yes.
I approve.
And I probably need help planning the menu too. We got to put all that's got to come together. Because one of the great things, Trevor didn't mention this, one of the great things about what we achieved for his 2021 perfect day, which I lovingly nicknamed the unfeasible game day, was that Trevor smoked an incredible brisket, and I can't remember what side dishes did we have, Trevor. It was like some incredible potato dish, right, that Melissa brought, and
trying to remember. I'm assuming we brought our what we call funeral corn.
Yes, that's it. That's what it was. It was the funeral corn. You're right. Yeah.
Okay, anyway, so it's corn with green chilies and cream cheese and butter and some other stuff. It's pretty good. It's baked. And then I brought I believe I brought my tangy coleslaw.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I hate coleslaw quite a bit, but this is not your traditional coleslaw. It's kind of spicy and tangy. It has vinegar and mustard and cayenne pepper in it, and yeah, it's completely different. And some of those things you probably think, well, I don't really like that either, and maybe you don't, but I love it. I love my tangy coleslaw. So those were some of the things, and it seems like we brought something else too, but I don't really remember.
So you got to get the menu right. Also, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, especially where you're that far away from pizza delivery.
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh,
All right.
I'll be honest. I want to double down on Josh's. His sounds amazing.
Josh and I also hopefully have a perfect day planned in October. Another Disney one, going to the Star Wars Hotel, but to be determined on when or if that gets scheduled, I guess.
Yeah.
But you left it out.
So my perfect day probably this year needs to be some memories with my children. They keep getting older and older and older. And, we've done some great things over the years, but it feels like we just haven't been able to pull together that really cool family vacation.
One of the problems, it seems like, is that, I mean, you've done too good of a job raising your family, and they would kind of,
they're like, we want to be in the basement too, Dad.
Yeah, they just want to stay home and play some games or whatever. But I guess what would even
entice them?
Yeah, what would be their perfect family vacation?
So 2 years ago we went to Arizona. Or 2 years? 3 years ago. Was it 3 years ago? 3 years ago we went to Arizona for Christmas to see my grandfather and grandmother, who they hadn't seen since they were really little. My daughter didn't remember them, so we went and saw them and all of my family on my mother's side. And there was a lot of people they had never met, and people I hadn't met or hadn't seen in many, many years. Like I re-met my cousin, whom the last time I saw was 2 years old, and I was 10, I think. So there'd been a long time since we had a big family reunion. We went there, and one of my children's favorite activities was, because we were in a big town. We were in Phoenix, and the surrounding areas. We went to a all-you-can-eat place that was an arcade, and basically you bought a car.
What the heck is it? Buster?
Dave and Buster's.
Yeah, Dave and Buster's. It was that type of place, though, right?
It was that type of place. So they handed, when you came in, you bought a combo package, which was all you can eat pizza and whatever else you wanted, and they gave you a card that gave you free games for 2 hours. You could play as many games as you wanted. As soon as you put the card in one of the games, it started your timer. You had 2 hours to go. And my kids, to this day, that's what they want to go do. And the truth is we're from such a small community. There's just nothing like that around here. So I think the perfect day would need to involve some sorts of things like that they don't get around here.
Does Salt Lake even have that, or would you have to go to Denver?
I don't think Salt Lake has anything quite like that. They have some arcades.
Denver or Phoenix is your best bet, honestly.
I know that Denver does.
I'm sure I have friends in Denver, and I wouldn't mind going and seeing them. And I'm sure they wouldn't mind us coming over as well. And I have family in Phoenix. We also, from this podcast, have met a lot of people from Seattle. And I've really kind of wanted to have multiple friends who work for Valve and Nintendo. And my boys are huge Nintendo fans. My oldest boy loves Mario, and I've had multiple people who work for Nintendo tell me, "Hey, bring him, and we'll give him a tour of the Seattle Nintendo facility." And so those were kind of some of the things that I'm just like, man, my kids would absolutely love that. So that's kind of what needs to happen. I don't know how to. I think I've given up on the Disney dream. It's just too expensive. I can do any one of the trips I've mentioned on the money we had set up for Disney, without spending anything. Yeah, three times over.
As the Disney dream with your family has dived, the dream has started to ignite with it. At some point, it's going to just be me, you, Melissa, and Brian that do. It'll probably be once all your kids are gone. But
I mean, that's easy. Getting 2 of us to Disney is not a problem. Getting 5 of us to Disney is really the issue.
Yeah. I mean,
it is so difficult.
That invitation is extended whenever, Trevor. So
you mentioned that, Trevor. Like, Laramie and I were just noticing we took just our 2 youngest kids on a trip, and it was just to Boise this last week, and saw a show over there, and then stayed the night, and then drove home in the morning. And she gets up in the morning and looks at me, and she's like, "It is way easy traveling with just 2 children." I mean, like even 2 children to 3 children is like there's an exponential jump. It's stupid.
Yeah, it is. It becomes just that much more difficult. Like I remember when we got our 3rd child, and I was like, the first time we had, I don't remember what was going on. I just remember thinking, if they all have issues at the same time, how are we supposed to deal with it? I can send her off of that issue. I can deal with this issue, but there's a 3rd issue going on, and we have no one to handle it. It made it much more difficult, and I couldn't really imagine or fathom having more than that all of a sudden. That was what I realized, that at some point the older ones start taking part in taking care of the younger ones, but ours were not far enough apart that really ever happened. So our 2 oldest ones were within 15 months of each other, so they were in diapers and on formula at the same time, and I thought I was going to go financially bankrupt. I was like, there's no way we're making it through this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
That the Tiger King meme? I want to recover from this.
Yeah, something like that. So whatever it is, it's got to be one of those things. It really needs to be something that involves gaming of some sort, or something that they would really enjoy. And I think all of those are probably a thing, but I just need to really find a way. But 2023, when my wife and I have our 20th wedding anniversary, yes, whatever that is, maybe Disney or whatever for the 2 of us.
We can totally make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have been married 20 years in 2023. So,
well, congrats.
But for now, I've got to figure out how to get my kids to something that they will accept as in entertainment that involves them leaving the house. The truth is, they've loved all the trips we've taken them on so far, because our vehicle has an inverter built into it. So right. I directly plug the Switch in. I got a mount for the Switch, and they play Switch games together in the back seat. And they all take their 3DSs, and when they're tired of the Switch game that whoever's in charge of picked, they'll play on their 3DS for a while, and they just go back and forth, or and then when they get tired of all that, I throw my iPad up on the same mount, and they watch movies. I mean, it's really rough being a kid these days. You know what I mean? I think about the trips I had as a kid.
Especially a kid of a nerd dad, for the record.
Yeah. I mean, I probably go pretty easy on them, but I never got any of that stuff. I had to, we played the signed alphabet game and the state license plate bingo and all the other horrible games you play.
A bunch of bull.
Yeah. So my kids I tried to get my kids to play some of those, and they're like, Dad, you're dumb. I'm gonna go back to watching my.
All right. Well, I'm excited to do some follow up next year and see how we do.
Sailed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let us know what a perfect day looks for you guys, and we look forward to hearing that.